The House Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure Committee will come to order. Would the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Shannon.
Present.
Representatives McDonald.
Present.
Coleman. Conlon.
Yes.
Farhat.
Here.
Fitzgerald. Hoskins.
Here.
Miller. Here. Outman.
Here.
Roth.
Here.
Bruck.
Present.
Koontz.
Here.
St. Germain. Here. Mr. Chair, you have 12 members present. You do have a quorum.
I need a motion to adopt minutes from the last meeting on October 12th. Representative Conlon makes that motion. Seeing no opposition, the minutes are adopted. Before we get started here, I would just like to welcome a group of students from the Dearborn Public Schools that are in attendance today. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Lansing and welcome to the House Office Building. So moving along today on the agenda, we will be taking up testimony and voting out Senate Bills 533 and Senate Bill 464. To get things started off, we will have Brian Merlos, Chief of Staff for Senator Erica Geis, here to discuss Senate Bill 533. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair McDonald, and members of the House Committee on Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure for the opportunity to testify today. Senator Geis is in session and is unable to make it today. My name is Brian Merlos. I serve as Senator Geis's Chief of Staff. It's great to be back. Also joining me is Melissa Horst, a representative from the Department of the Secretary of State. For many of their services, we have seen the Secretary of State move to an online platform or to an in-person kiosk. This saves Michigan residents time and makes interacting with the government more convenient. Title transfers, however, still require an in-person visit to a branch and mailing a paper certificate. This is one of the Secretary of State's most frequently used and critical services. To illustrate that, the Secretary of State has handled more than 1 million transfers in fiscal year 2023 alone. This bill will modernize this process and help make our Secretary of State services more convenient and expedient for two private individuals. This bill does not apply to commercial title transfers, only the private sale of a vehicle between two individuals. It does apply to privately held commercial vehicles that change hands between two individuals, thinking a small farm's truck, as well as salvage titles. It does not apply to off-road vehicles or watercrafts. Those are under the purview of a different section of law, and we expect to see legislation on those to allow online title transfer for those on those vehicles soon. In the meantime, however, the Secretary of State already has the digital infrastructure in place to manage this process. For commercial vehicles, as the Michigan electronic filing system already allows dealerships to process transactions and title transfers and registrations, and the department's electronic lien and title system mandates that as of this past October 1, for most vehicles involving a lien, dealerships must provide individuals with an electronic title. This bill just expands the scope to include privately held vehicles. I want to conclude that this bill only creates an option to transfer titles online. It is not mandatory. People who prefer to make an appointment at their local Secretary of State branch and transfer titles the old-fashioned way will still be able to do so. This bill is just an opportunity to make our state's bureaucracy more convenient and less time-consuming for those who want to use this option. I hope you will join the Senate in supporting this bill. I'm available to answer questions committee members may have, as well. Melissa has a statement, and she will be able to answer any questions that I might not be able to, and thank you for your time.
Melissa?
All right, thank you. My name's Melissa Horst, as Brian introduced me. I mean, happy Halloween. We could pretend that we're here in costume as, the Secretary of State and Senator Geis, but I forgot to bring my costume. But anywho, good morning, Chair Shannon and the members of the Transportation, Mobility, and Infrastructure Committee. I just really want to thank you for this opportunity today to testify in support of Senate Bill 533, a bill to support electronic transfer of title or interest in a vehicle. And as Brian pointed out, this is for private party sales. And we do want to thank Senator Geis and Senator Geis's office and the sponsors of this legislation for their interest in increasing the service efficiency for the people of Michigan. So since taking office, Secretary Benson has made it a priority to take those transactions out of the branch whenever possible and make them more convenient for our customers. The Michigan Department of State has made great strides towards this goal. Since Secretary Benson took office, we have doubled the number of services available online, tripled the number of services available at self-service stations, and increased the amount of transactions customers complete without an office visit from 28 to 60%. You know, this is our goal because it's what Michiganders want and expect. By letting people conduct their business with the department outside of the branch, we have eliminated hours-long waits. And we have the Google reviews to sort of show the product of our efforts. You know, our Google reviews, which used to average about 2.5 stars, are now averaging over 4 stars, so people have taken notice. However, private party vehicle sales still require Michiganders to visit a branch office. In the last fiscal year, ending September 30th, staff in our offices across the state completed more than 930,000 of these private party title transfers for residents. Senate Bill 533 would permit the Department of State to establish a secure electronic system to bring private sellers and buyers who prefer to conduct their transaction online together, saving them time and a branch visit. The bill would also allow us to issue the buyer an electronic title instead of a paper one, like the department already does today through our electronic lien and title system. This would be an optional service for Michiganders who would prefer to skip a trip to the branch when they can. For those customers who prefer to conduct their business in branch, they are welcome to do so. But the bottom line is that by giving residents the choice in how they conduct their business with the department, our entire state benefits. So we urge you to pass Senate Bill 533 and give our department the opportunity to better serve the people of Michigan. So thank you. And I will take any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Melissa. We do have a few questions here. We'll start out with MVC Outman.
Well, thank you, Chair Shannon, and thank you both for being here to testify, and really thank your boss, Senator Geis, for this. This is something I've been looking forward to for a very long time. Just a couple of technical questions, and maybe you covered it in your testimony, so I apologize if this is a little redundant, but just real quickly, as a vehicle owner, will you be allowed to have both a physical and an electronic title? Would both be valid, or is it kind of one or the other?
From my understanding, and some of these questions, like our office is sort of working on, like we have a workflow that we're hammering out right now. I think that in terms of like issuing a paper or an electronic title is sort of the consensus for security purposes. But again, if somebody would prefer to have an electronic title or would prefer to have a paper title, they would still have that option.
Okay, I was just curious, and I don't know why you would want both. I was just wondering if that would be allowed under this. And my other question is, how is it going to be if there is a lien on a vehicle? Because right now, I believe if you have a paper title, maybe it's a different color if there's a lien held on the vehicle. How would that play out with a digital version or an electronic version, rather?
Well, so actually, as Brian pointed out, as of October 1st, our ELT system, electronic lien and title system, became mandatory for lien holders in the state of Michigan. So if you have a commercial lien in the state of Michigan, then you're already kind of participating in an electronic title record. But in terms of what that looks like, I mean, I've seen it online. I mean, color doesn't really play into it because it isn't a paper title. But I'd be happy to send you a video that kind of has like a demo of like what the ELT system looks like.
Okay, sure, that'd be great. That's all I got, so I'll yield back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Farhat.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a great idea, just kind of to streamline consumer experience and business in the state. Do we know what the fee is going to be for an electronic title for transfer? Right now, it's something like $15 that you pay when you do it in person. Is there going to be a fee change potentially, or any shift of costs that we're going to see with this?
So like our fees are pretty much in statute, so I think the fees would be the same. But I haven't heard any discussion of like any changes to those fees at this time. I believe that the cost of standing up the system, the numbers at the top of my head, for some reason I'm thinking it's about $500,000, but I'd have to double check. But I can get an answer for you in terms of like how much the cost is to develop this system. But in terms of like fee increases, that's not something that we're currently discussing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Representative Bruck.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank
My-
you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, my pleasure. Now, my question revolves around fees, kind of, Representative Farhat had mentioned about the $15 fee. I know at the kiosk, there's sometimes additional fees that people pay, and that's really, I guess, boils down, would there be an additional fee on top of the 15? And then my other question is, I assume there would be quite a cost to create the program. What's the potential savings? Because my assumption is it will save the SOS quite a bit moving forward. Is there any estimates on how much it'll actually save?
So I don't have those numbers in front of me, Representative, but I'd be happy to kind of like dig into them for you. I think in terms of like cost savings, because like I would suspect that it might be sort of comparable to the cost savings that we identified during like the passage of ELT back in like 2014, 2015, right? Because it's like we're not going to be issuing that paper title, for example. And there's costs associated with that paper title, and then there's also just like sort of some practical reasons why we may want to start shifting towards electronic title. There as I'm sure a lot of your legislative staff have pointed out, there's been a shortage of that secure paper stock, and we're certainly all caught up on printing paper titles. But in addition to just like the cost savings related to that purchasing that paper stock, there are just certain limitations that and challenges that we've sort of realized in the past couple of years with issuing paper titles. So, but I'll see if I can get those numbers for you.
And I just applied the other day for a title transfer. So, yeah, I'm still waiting on the paper
Right.
title. So, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Representative Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question was already asked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Representative Kuntz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd also like a copy of those numbers if you could on the cost savings there. I would assume losing an electronic title is synonymous with losing a physical title. We can go in with our VIN and proof of identity and get it replaced.
Yeah, and I think some of that is going to depend on how that system's built out. Like, as you know, we already have an electronic lien and title system. So, like, can we? And the language in the bill does give us some flexibility in terms of like whether or not we develop this in house or whether we contract with a third party vendor to build out this system. So the Department of State has some flexibility in there. But in terms of like what ELT looks like to kind of make that comparison, there's not necessarily like losing that title, right? Because you have that electronic
I can lose
record.
stuff. I could lose it.
Right.
I assure
But
you.
it's like so we we would have like that electronic record, right? So
And that's my saying. I could come in and say, "This is my VIN. Here's my proof of identity. I've lost this," and you could replicate it.
yeah, I think yes, certainly we
Thank
could
you.
replicate it because
Okay,
we're
that's
going to
what
be
I'm saying.
maintaining that record, right?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, no cards to read them. All right, I need a motion to report Senate Bill 533 with recommendation. Representative Coleman makes that motion. Would the clerk please take a roll call vote?
On the motion to report, Chair Shannon?
Yes.
Representatives McDonald?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Conlon?
Yes.
Farhat?
Yes.
Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Hoskins?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Outman?
Yes.
Roth?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yay.
Koontz?
Pass.
St. Germain?
Pass.
Mr. Chair, you have 11 yeas, 0 nays, 2 pass. Senate Bill 533 is reported with recommendation.
Senate Bill 533 is reported with recommendation. Thank you so much. Next up, Senate Bill 464, and we have Emily Collins, Chief of Staff for Senator McMorrow, here to testify. Emily, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Chair Shannon, Vice Chairs McDonald and Outman, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Emily Collins. I serve as Senator Mallory McMorrow's Chief of Staff, and I'm here to talk about Senate Bill 464, which would enable the Secretary of State's office to reissue 3 iconic Michigan license plates from years past. The black plate with white text available from 1979 to 1983, and the blue plate with white text available from 1983 to 2007, which pictured here, very cool. And for 1 year only, a limited edition return of the popular 1976 bicentennial red, white, and blue design for 2026 in honor of the semi-quincentennial when our great nation turns 250 years old. This bill is very straightforward. It would bring these 3 license plates back into production, which drivers could select for an additional fee of $50. However, unlike many of our other fundraising specialty plates, which utilize the additional fee to raise funds for charities or universities, the fee for these 2 plates would go straight into the state transportation fund, creating a unique way for drivers to accessorize their car, celebrate our car culture. There's a lot of very similar words in the sentence, bear with me, and help us fix the roads by generating potentially millions of dollars of additional revenue without raising taxes. If you want to see another picture, there you go. For background, Senator McMorrow first introduced this legislation back in 2020 and was proud to secure near unanimous bipartisan co-sponsorship, though unfortunately the bill was not granted a hearing at that time. Since then, the Secretary of State has released a vintage-inspired Water Winter Wonderland license plate, which has quickly become one of the most popular plate options selected by drivers. Since its release in late 2021, the Michigan Secretary of State has issued over 1.1 million of those plates. And while we know that the additional fee would likely lower the take rate for these 3 new vintage-inspired plates, what we do know is that if we were to assume even a tenth of the take rate of the Water Winter Wonderland plate, that alone would generate over $5 million in new revenue for the roads. After working through this concept with the Secretary of State and hearing from a variety of members and stakeholders, we lowered the initially proposed fee from $100 to $50, which you'll see in the bill. This was done in an effort to maximize that potential take rate for these plates. Working in the office of the state senator who represents Woodward Avenue, home of the Woodward Dream Gurus, we've had countless conversations with car enthusiasts over the past years who are clamoring to get one of these on their cars. They're just waiting for us to make it happen. The concept is simple. Bring back these 3 iconic license plates from Michigan's past to let drivers tap into nostalgia and help their cars look the best they can on the roads and help generate new revenue to fix the roads in the process. Easy as that. I am available to answer any questions, and if I don't know the answer, I can get it for you.
Well, thank you so much for your testimony. I was there in the Senate when the senator testified on this, and it's just very surprising to me how much people are interested in license plates.
Yes.
So very interesting. Okay, I do have a question from Representative Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you must not have been to a lot of outlying barns, right? I mean, this is like wall decoration 101 for those outlying barns there. My question about the red, white, and blue plate and the resurgence here for the 250 anniversary of our nation's life here. Is that only going to be allowed in 2026 then?
Yes, that is correct.
So that will be a
1 year
one-year
only.
release.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, MBC Outman.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here to testify on your boss's bill. Just a quick question. It's not directly related, but I am curious. So there is a piece of legislation right now that would change the way we manufacture a license plate from, I don't know if it's the current stamp model to digitally produced. Would these new additional plates pose a challenge to that potentially, or has there been any concerns regarding that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I do want to double check. If my memory serves, we did make adjustments to how this bill was written because there was another bill, so they needed to work together, but I don't want to speak to that without being absolutely sure. So if it's okay, I'd love to follow up, and then I'm assuming I can send it to the clerk and get it out to committee members. Is that all right?
Yeah, no, that'd be perfect. Thank you so much, and I'll just add that I'm a really big fan of these legacy plates. I really regret not purchasing that Winter Wonderland one.
Yes.
So
Same.
Again, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Any other questions? I do have one card to read in. I'm sorry, 2 cards to read in. Melissa Horst does not wish to speak, is neutral from MDOT. I'm sorry, from Department of Secretary of State. And then Ron Brunke from American Council on Engineering Companies of Michigan supports the Senate Bill 464. So I need a motion to report Senate Bill 464 with recommendation. Representative Hoskins makes that motion. Would the clerk please take a roll call vote?
On the motion to report, Chair Shannon?
Yes.
Representatives McDonald?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Conlon?
Yes.
Farhat?
Yes.
Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Hoskins?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Altman?
Yes.
Roth?
Pass.
Bruck?
Pass.
Kuntz?
Pass.
Saint Germain. Mr. Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays, 4 pass. Senate Bill 464 is reported with recommendation.
Senate Bill 464 is reported with recommendation. I don't have any absent members, but before we adjourn here, I would just like to say happy birthday to my oldest daughter who is turning 21. Happy birthday, Madeline. There being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned.